All right, so before we start, I'd like to go over some basic protocols that would be great if they are followed. And I invite you to adopt them for the benefit of everyone in attendance. Number one, you're encouraged to use earphones or headsets while speaking during the session for improved audio experience. By default, all participants except for the hosting and the facilitator are muted during the session. We would like to provide as noise-free an environment as possible for our speakers. If you have any questions, please wait for the Q&A segments or post them in the Zoom chat. You can find the chat button with the button with the three dots below your screen in the Zoom window. During the Q&A segments, if you are invited to set your questions to the facilitator, you can find the microphone button at the bottom left of your screen, which you can click to mute yourself. Now, we would like to see you during the session, and we encourage you to have your camera on. If you're not able to do so, that is fine. Now, if you have to take care of personal or professional items during the club session, you're invited to turn your camera off because your on-screen activity may be distracting to the audience. You can turn your camera on and off by clicking on the video button located right next to the microphone button. We also would like to inform you that this session is being recorded, and recording may be used for public relations activities later on. If you would not like to be recorded during the session, please turn your video feed off. And please don't forget to silence your phones, smile, and show your active support to our facilitator who has put aside time to provide you with information in this month's web series. Moving on. Benjamin Franklin once said that an investment in education pays the best interest. Leo Buscaglia also mentioned that change is the end result of all true learning. And Pathways has been a major change in the Toastmasters International Educational Program since 2018, when it was officially rolled out throughout all the clubs, districted and undistricted throughout the world. And our facilitator for this workshop for the month of October is going to tell us how to shape up with Pathways. So who is our facilitator? Carole McCulloch, Distinguished Toastmaster, has a background of 30 plus years of experience as a teacher and mentor in secondary and tertiary educational institutions, and she specializes in e-learning and professional development. Also known as Coach Carole. She has 13 years of experience as a Toastmaster, speaker, trainer, club leader, and mentor. She currently leads a team which supports clubs in Victoria, South Australia, and Tasmania in their adoption of the new Pathways education program. And during her journey in Toastmasters, Carole has been an executive team member for the 3 clubs in Northern Victoria in Australia. She has gained the highest award in the Toastmasters program, the Distinguished Toastmasters Award. In 2016, Carole became a Pathways education guide, supporting clubs on either side of the border in regional Victoria and New South Wales. In 2018, this is where the fun starts for her, because she was a team leader in the Pathways Guide for the Undistricted Clubs initiative, providing support for 160 clubs in different parts of the world. Carole's current focus is on community team collaboration, how to motivate others, lead in any situation, and collaborate successfully. Her current support role is Area Director for the Toastmasters clubs in the Northern region of Australia, located at Albury, Wodonga, Indigo, and Wangaratta. Carole has signed up as a digital mentor for the Be Connected program for older Australians and will facilitate digital skills development workshops at Barranduda Community Center in 2020. You can link up with her on Facebook by searching for her there, and I will share her link later on in the chat, or you can go to her website, www.coachcaroleonline.com. I will also share that link in the Zoom chat during the session. Without further ado, I now hand over this session and the workshop to none other than Coach Carole. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, Christian. My goodness, I must have given you way too much to read out there. No one's going to remember all that about me. I'm very pleased to be part of your session here tonight, and I applaud you in your efforts in doing your Distinguished Toastmaster capstone project and illuminating various parts of Toastmasters to people in clubs across the world.
Thank you,
Now, I
madam.
can see that we have a couple of participants tonight, and I'm very happy to meet you. I'd like you to correct me if I'm wrong in pronouncing your name. I'm Muslim, and I have DKN Plateau. I'm not sure if that's the name of the club or the person.
Let me help you. The lady has the name of Azra, and DKN is also known as Roshan. So you can use Azra and Roshan.
Azra and Roshan, well, welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Because we're a small group, I think we can be quite interactive tonight. So please do put up your hand or a chat in the chat panel and let me know if you've got questions or comments along the way. And thank you so much for putting those in, Christian. I can now see how those names are spelled. My name is often misspelled and mispronounced, so I'm always careful with that. Tonight I'm going to take you through a couple of ways in which you personally can use Pathways education to shape up for Toastmasters, and I'm going to stop along the way and ask you if you've got questions about what I've just covered. Before I begin that though, I'd like to sort of gauge what both Azar and Roshan have been doing so far in Pathways, along with Christian. So I'd like to start with a little round robin and ask Azar first of all, have you begun in Pathways, and if so, what are you doing?
Hello, yes. I've joined the club in March this year. I've enrolled on Pathway directly. I'm currently on level 2 of presentation mastery.
That's great. Presentation mastery is one of the most popular paths that people have chosen across the world. Roshan, what about you?
Hi, ma'am. Good evening. I have already registered on Pathways, but unfortunately, I haven't started my journey on Pathways as yet. I'm still on the traditional communication track because I need to have to complete 2 projects, speech projects, to be awarded the Advanced Communicator Silver. So I'm trying to complete that first, get that silver award, and then move on to Pathways. My friends are pushing me to complete the goal as well because we have up to 30th of June next year. I will have 10 more speeches to do, and hopefully by completing those 10 speeches, I can be a DTM as well because we are in undistricted area. We don't need to have area or direct. So I am in the balance. I'm not sure because time is pressing. But as I know I can complete the silver one, I'll try to do that, and then I'll decide whether I'll move on to Pathways or I'll complete the goal to get that TTM.
Thank you so much, Roshan. You're not alone in that. Many people across the world have chosen to do exactly the same. Finish with their traditional program and then focus on Pathways after that. Christian, where are you up to in your Pathways?
Right. So I've completed 2 paths already: strategic relationships and effective coaching. I'm currently on the 3rd level of innovative planning, and I just started my 4th path of presentation mastery. And I'm currently working on my Pathways DTM capstone project. Besides that, I've already completed the requirements to achieve the DTM level, which are club mentor and club sponsor.
Fantastic. Well done. I can see some overachievements happening over there in Mauritius from you, and we do need champions like yourself to lead the way. I'm going to share some slides with you in this first segment, and then I am going to share the website for Pathways with you as well. So your screen will change. So I'm going to share the slides first. I'm hoping you can now see them. Asa, if you could just give me a nod. Yes, thumbs up is good too. All right, let me begin, because I wanted to make this a presentation that you could use for your own clubs if you were enthusing others about Pathways. So I'm going to go right to the beginning and then work through in a sequential manner. In the shaping up segments, we're going to look at three main parts. As if you were a brand new Toastmaster, and some of you in the room are, and those who are watching later may well be in that category. So I'm going to introduce you to Fast Track, and then the Pathways onboard experience. Onboarding simply means how do you get in there? And then have a deeper dive into what is contained within the Pathways education program, looking at paths and projects, level completion. If we've got time, evaluating and mentoring. And the third one is really about how you make the best use of your online learning and navigate confidently in Basecamp. I don't think we'll cover the Basecamp Manager navigation tonight, but that is something for later. Throughout my presentation tonight, I've got this slide that appears several times, and it's at this point, when you see this slide again, that I'm going to pause and ask you for some questions that you might have on what I've just covered. And I'm going to try and cover as many of those words, those doing words that you see on the left, right through from onboarding, right through to mentoring. Let me introduce you now to the Fast Track program, which is not Pathways. It's totally different. It's brand new, and it could be well worth your time to have a closer look at. It's a short, fast track to Toastmasters. It's been developed this month and has only just been released, and you buy it just like you would buy a path, you would buy the Fast Track, but it's only $4.99. So it's a good one to start people off. So if you've got people who are not yet in your club and want to develop their speaking abilities, Fast Track is for them. It covers those three main areas of speech preparation, vocal variety, and body language. And they do it through a selection of videos and some activities for you to do. Now, as you go into the Fast Track, you'll come across this video. I won't play it for you tonight. It's something that you can go and play for yourself when you go to the Toastmasters site. And in the chat, Christian, I've put a link that takes you to the Toastmasters resources announcements. Can you find that and post it for everybody? Because that's where you find it to get to the Fast Track program. It really is worthwhile as a precursor, something that you could do before Pathways. And it's useful not just for new Toastmasters, but for old ones like me. It's a very good refresher because it picks up on all those things that really help you become better at structuring your speech, delivering your speech, and engaging with your audience. It's automatically gone into play function. Let me just pause that. And go to the next slide. So this is why I think it's a really useful precursor to Pathways, is you get to watch a few presenters on screen and you can have a look at their style, their stage presence, and how they structure their own speech. So well worth a look, and advise those people who are coming to your club as a visitor that this is available for them before they commit perhaps to joining a club and paying extra money. But now I want to move into Pathways. This is why you're here tonight. We want to learn more about what are the ways in which we can gain competency with the new program. And I'm here to tell you that it is an excellent program to cover the skills required for public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, and management. And throughout it all, the fifth competency that we build, whichever program we do, is confidence. Now, Asa, you mentioned that you're only new to Toastmasters, but you've already built confidence in what you've been learning and delivering at your club. What Pathways does is combine all of these competencies into a program that enables you to move from being scared to death right through to being extra confident and a professional speaker. Throughout the program, there are over 300 competencies that are built into the program. And where else could you get such an education for quite a few less dollars than you might spend on professional development? For me, in Australian dollars, it costs me about $150 a year to be in one club. If I go to a larger organisation in Australia to do my training, I could be spending 10 times that amount. So it's good value. If you're not yet aware of what the Pathways experience is like, there's another video that you can access when you first go to the Toastmasters website. And the link there is under the heading of Pathways. Again, I won't play this video. I will simply draw your attention to it. It's a nice little overview, only a few minutes long. One other thing that is useful for your members is to try the Icebreaker online class before they choose a path. You can do that from the website, and this is a screen image of the website, and you'll notice that we've gone to the part of the website called Sample Your First Project, and you get to that through the Pathways menu. And you can sample that first project by simply clicking on Break the Ice, the icon that you see down here. And it takes you through an online class that you will get when you get into a path. So you're getting practice on the way in which you navigate within the Basecamp. And Basecamp is the name of the place where you get your online classes. So this is the first opportunity for a question and answer, and I'll take a sip of water.
Yes, I have one, Carole.
Yes, please go ahead,
The
Roshni.
pre-perf one that you've mentioned, the fast track. What's the time frame to complete that?
Oh, I didn't mention that, but it says 30 minutes. So it's a real fast track. So you can work through those videos, prepare your first speech, practice your speech, they say, within 30 minutes. I'm a little bit doubtful about preparing and practicing your speech and watching videos in that time. So I would allow about an hour.
Thanks.
It could be very valuable for those of our potential members who want something short, sharp, and just now. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's move on. As you know, the program, whether it was traditional or Pathways, works by getting members to practice. You practice leading in your meetings. You practice with prepared speeches. You practice with impromptu or table topics. And you practice evaluating. That hasn't changed with Pathways. That is still the structure under which you do all of those practice items within your club environment. So that's a comfort factor. So don't be alarmed that some of that is gone because Pathways has come in. That is all still there. The main part of it is your prepared speeches and your evaluations. Some of that looks a bit different, and I'll show you that in a moment. You're probably aware right now that you have 11 paths to choose from. And the most recent of those came out in March of this year. I think it was March. And that is the Engaging Humour path. That one and Presentation Mastery are both popular because they focus directly on developing public speaking skills, not necessarily leadership projects. But within each of the paths, no matter which one they are, they each contain 5 levels. And Asa, you were saying that you've finished, you're doing level 1, and we know that there are several projects within each level to do. And by the time you finish a path, you will have finished 14 projects. Now, a project normally involves delivering a speech as well, but there's lots of learning to be done in your online classes. Some of the projects in higher levels do not require you to deliver a speech, so those are more to do with project management, but most of the projects do involve giving a speech. So when you come into your path, you learn through your online class, but you always deliver your speech to your club members or to other club members if you have multiple clubs. The final part of the Pathways program involves the new Pathways Mentor program and the new Distinguished Toastmasters program. The Mentor program is available to you when you've finished level 2 in any path, and you can do it multiple times if you need to. And the Distinguished Toastmaster program is available to you when you've finished 2 paths. And that one is what Christian mentioned that he is doing for this particular range of webinars or masterclasses, as you're calling them. So let's have a deeper look now into the Pathways curriculum. Levels 1 and 2, all projects within those levels are required for you to do. There's no choice. You need to do all of them. There's a little bit of flexibility in the order that you do them. However, they all must be done. In levels 3, 4, and 5, there are combinations of required and elective projects. And it's the elective projects that are the most exciting part of Pathways. There's so many wonderful things to choose from. Something that will appeal to most people who come to your Toastmasters Club. The paths themselves are defined by the projects that you are required to do within them. And that'll become a little clearer as I work through some of my presentation today. Some paths differ because of their focus on public speaking like presentation mastery, and others like effective coaching, which focus more on leadership. As you go through each level, the projects build in challenge and complexity. And so that is an easy way to work through it if you follow the sequential paths and levels. And it's right at the end, the level 5 requirement, that really categorizes each of the paths. So I always advise people to have a look carefully at what's contained in level 5 of the path they want to have a closer look at. For example, the High Performance Leadership Project features in effective coaching, which is one that I did first and one that Christian is doing or has done. So if you don't have time to do a 6-month high performance leadership project, then perhaps that path is not right for you at this time. So do watch out for that. And I've got some documentation suggestions for you to use to have a deeper look at the paths. Keep in mind that 3 of the paths has a high performance leadership project right at the end. If you're not sure what high performance leadership project means, I can answer that if you need it. This is one of those extra resources that I was referring to, and it's the catalogue. And Christian, if you find the one that links to District 57 pathways, that's the one to pop into place in the chat. This one was developed in District 57 because they were the first district in which pathways was rolled out. And their catalogue gives you a deep understanding of each path and now contains all 11 for you to choose from. What we did in our District 73, which is the 3 states of Australia, South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania, is we developed a Pathways Learning Guide or Learner Guide. And you'll find that link there too. You're all welcome to have a look at that. It's not locked in any way. And it allows you to look carefully at some of the things that might trip you up if you were not aware of them when going into pathways. So I always advise putting something like the catalogue into the, I'm sure you have something that you hand out to your club members at the beginning of their journey, because they will be wanting to ask questions, and that's a good way for them to find the answers for themselves. The other documentation that I would really recommend is the Navigator. Now this, as you can see, is a printable document, and it contains information about pathways, but also information about the way in which the Toastmaster meeting is run. Who does what, what's expected of you when you visit. So I would definitely hand out a link to the Navigator or have a few of those copied and ready for your visitors. There are many, many resources at the Toastmasters website, along with resources that have been built by people across the world. So a huge amount to choose from, and it can get a bit confusing. Now we're moving into a segment where I'm going to give you a bit of a guide to picking the right path for you. So Roshan, this is for you because you're in that position where you've not yet chosen your path. So we've mentioned already that if you're focusing in on public speaking, then choose presentation mastery or engaging humour. If you want a little more leadership project material, then either of those 3 would be highly recommended. I've personally done the visionary communication and found that to be a really excellent way for me to develop my leadership. And they call that light leadership. So there's not as many months involved in the projects involved. And in category 3, called moderate leadership, then you'll get longer projects, such as the one that I'm currently doing for team collaboration, which is a 6-month project. So it's good to look ahead and find out how much leadership is involved with each path. And by the time we get to category 4, we're looking at strong leadership. And this is where effective coaching stands out, at the end of which is the high performance leadership. And each of those 3 paths, effective coaching, innovative planning, and persuasive influence, each contain a high performance leadership project. Now, this is the popularity of the paths at the time. I think it's changing, but innovative planning was number 1 at that point in time. Presentation mastery came in 2nd, dynamic leadership 3rd, effective coaching was number 4, and leadership development was number 5. And this was done by the sort of measurements that World Headquarters has been doing. The paths are grouped by the skills learned. So as we've said, 2 of them focus on public speaking and the other 9 are on leadership. And they increase like so from light through to strong leadership. So that gives you a little more idea of which one that you might want to take a closer look at. So in group 1, public speaking, all the required projects are speeches. The leadership projects are available still as electives, so you're not missing out. You're just not required to do them as in the others. And at level 5, you get an opportunity to do longer speeches of 18 to 22 minutes. Normally, of course, they're 5 to 7. So these are presentation mastery and engaging humour. So we'll just whiz through these fairly quickly. So in group 2, the light leadership, they plan or do most modest projects and give a speech. Then at level 5, you plan and complete a modest project. So a modest project might be something like planning a special event at your club. And the paths involved: leadership development, motivational strategies, and visionary communication. Group 3, you're creating and developing plans with a team. Very suitable for those of you who are involved as an executive on your club. And at level 5, you're required to do a 6-month leadership project. That could be useful as your club officer, committee chair, or a project that you're doing at work. And those are the 3 paths involved there. Your choice really depends on what you are wanting to get out of it. So before you make any choices, decide for yourself, what's your goal? What is it that you are needing to do? Maybe it's something for work or in life or in your hobbies. So use that as your guide to choose whether it's leadership or public speaking. And the last group, you're creating and developing plans with a team, but with a much broader scope than group 3. So for example, you might be dealing with groups of people outside of your club. And at level 5, you do your HPL. You need a guidance committee for your HPL, and you need an action team. So this is where it gets quite a bit more involved. And when Christian mentioned before how we provided support for undistricted clubs in 2018, I chose this as my HPL. I wished I'd chosen it as my Distinguished Toastmaster project because it was very involved. And I did that as part of effective coaching. So there's a lot of information in these slides, but you do get to have these slides. I'll give the final copy to Christian and he can share with you. So at this point in time, you might have people in your club that are saying, well, when do I choose my path? Do I have to choose it on the first night that I come and visit your club? No, especially if they're brand new. So let's say if you're a very brand new Toastmaster, you haven't even joined a club, you might recommend the fast track. Do that first. If you've been in Toastmasters for 6 months or more, you could trial the icebreaker, having already experienced perhaps the traditional program, and then get an idea about the paths and do your research, and then go ahead and select your path. And any one of those is applicable to an experienced Toastmaster. You do have choice. So we've looked a little bit at selecting, and we're at that Q&A point again.
So, Carole, I just want to point out we have reached the 30 minutes hour mark, the 30 minutes mark, not hour mark. And I do have a couple of questions. So one of them is with respect to the last project that we have on the path. It's reflect on your path. Can you share a bit about that project? Because I was a bit surprised when I hit that project, and it took me quite a bit of time and reflection to really do it. Can you share a list of do's and don'ts and recommendations on how you would tackle the last project? And
what an excellent question. I'll give it my best shot. This project is an important piece of reflection for you. I'm very big on reflective practice. Whenever we're doing professional development, the best part of the learning for us is when we think back to the process that we've followed in order to gain new skills. So the Reflect on Your Path project gets you to look back throughout all of the levels and all of the projects. Now, I remember when I did my first Reflect on My Path, I thought I needed to tell people all of the steps that I took along the way. Sure, you can do that, but I think the most important thing that you do in your speech about reflection is what has changed in you since you began that path. And if I'm to do more of the Reflect on My Paths, I kind of want to bundle them together now, because I've almost finished 4 paths, and I'm getting things muddled in my mind. Which path was that in? So what I would instruct you or advise you to do is keep careful track of what you have done. Keep all your speeches, keep all your evaluations, store everything that you've done and map it. To write down on paper what you did. And I think I mentioned already, I'm a big note taker, so I like to journal things. So as I'm moving through a path now, I make journal items to remind me of what I'm learning. And one of my favorite electives is the blogging one. And so it's here where I can do lots of reflection and share my reflection with everybody else. So if you're keen to Reflect on Your Path and roll it into a blog, that's how I would advise. Does that help, Christian?
it does, because I remember when I did my first reflection, I was looking at all the different previous Reflect on Your Path speeches that my peers, and most of them, or if not all of them, were about, this is what I did in level 1, this is what I did in level 2, and so on. And I thought to myself, just like you said, let's not do it like that. Let's see how I changed, how I improved. So the first attempt was about what I learned from the path. And then the second attempt was what not to do when you do your second path. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
I do have a second question. It's on specifically on our written evaluations that we get from our evaluators. Now, in Basecamp, there's a place where we can go and upload our scanned written evaluations.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest and candid. it's been a long while since I've done that. I think it's only been for my level 1 and level 2 of my first POF. For all the other evaluations, they're only on my folders in my laptops. So you mentioned that it is recommended, it's a good thing to have your evaluations from your first speech until your last speech project somewhere handy where you can go and just look at them for the reflection.
Yes.
And that's something that I didn't think that it was important until I actually went through my own reflection. So can you just share a bit of light on how to really use those written evaluations? Because as we do project after project, we tend to lose focus on how to use them.
Yeah, look, I've got a slide or two about evaluation will help me. So let me just whiz through to pick up the evaluation. That one there would do the job. Because it's the way in which the evaluation form is different in Pathways to what it was in the manuals that we used for competent communicator and so on. And within the evaluation form, there are notes for the evaluator, but on the other 2 pages, there are criteria for evaluating. I'm not sure if I've got the second page showing. No, I haven't got it on this one. However, what I would suggest that you do is encourage people to look carefully at the criteria for evaluating, because that's all of the wording that is used there is what you're looking for in your feedback, and it gives the evaluator the words to use when giving you that feedback. When you go back and have a look at the way in which they've filled out the form, it tells you what it is that you need to develop more of. For me, it's always been vocal variety. People pick me up on it all the time. They say, Carole, it was a bit flat. It was a bit, that's my timer. So I try and do more of the vocal variety. And every time I get that coming in on my evaluation form, I know I've dropped back into old habits and I've become a bit mundane again. So I do advise you to look at the evaluation forms themselves. But having said that, I also suggest that you store those somewhere for yourself. I don't see that it's really helpful to store the evaluation forms in your Basecamp. Sure, there's a place for it, but you want them right there beside you. So I always suggest to people, have a good folder system on your own computer. So I hope that helps.
It does, thank you. I know I'm hogging all this Q&A segment, but I've got a last question, which I think I should ask you.
Yeah. Whilst you're doing the last question, I'm going to swing over to the Toastmasters website.
Sure thing. So
go ahead.
The level 1 of every single POF it contains the same speech projects for all the POF. That means if I've completed my effective coaching level 1, and then I've completed the POF, when I start strategic or innovative planning, I'm going to go over the same speech projects again. So what should be, in terms of preparation, in terms of awareness, in terms of mindset, what should it be like for that Toastmaster who's going to repeat the level one project for their second or third or fourth POF?
That's a very good question. It's one that's come up so many times. To me, I believe that we shouldn't think of it as a repeat. It's a new opportunity to do it differently. For example, I now have a theme running through each path that I do, and it's the theme that tells me what I'm going to include in those speeches, even at level 1. So the icebreaker is on the theme, the next speech is on the theme, and it continues that way. When I'm doing another path, the theme might be different, so therefore the content, the delivery of the icebreaker and the other speeches are different. And it didn't occur to me until I had finished 2 paths that that was the way to go. So it's useful to listen to other people and how they've tackled them as to what you do within those projects that seem to be just repetitions of the previous. But no, they don't necessarily have to be the same thing. You, for example, pick a different part of your life, your whatever you want to share with people for your icebreaker. So I hope that's helping.
Thank you. It helps a lot, especially for those who are going to watch the recording.
Yeah.
I'm done with the questions.
Thank you very much, Christian. Now I've jumped over to the website. I'm hoping that you can all see that. Can you just tell me if you can, please, Christian?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Oh,
we
good.
can.
Okay, good. And you'll notice that I'm already logged in because it says welcome Carole up here. I've also already gone ahead and opened up an online class, so I'll just be able to work through those. But this is where you find the fast track. And the quickest way into your transcript now is for you to click on where it says welcome Carole, because that will take you immediately into your own profile. And as long as you have done that within a reasonable time frame, it won't have timed out on you. And right here in your profile are your choices. This is where you go to your Basecamp over here on the left. This is where you'll choose your new path. And over here is where you collect or view your navigator. When you have more than one club, you would select the club here before you go to your Basecamp. So I'm going to choose my Indigo speakers. And it now wants me to confirm that this is my home club selection. This simply means when I'm using Basecamp for this club, that Basecamp manager will see what I've done. When I'm wanting the other Basecamp managers to see, then I switch home clubs. It's as simple as that. Once I've chosen my club, I click on Go. And it will take me into my Basecamp. And if the connection speed is reasonable, then that should happen within a few seconds. There we go. So this is the landing page, and it's here where you can get access to your tutorials and resources, and where you can check the compatibility of your computer. But it's the big blue tiles that are most important. So scrolling down to those, when you are accessing the path that you have chosen, this is the way through. So you can access it from this blue tile. But notice just underneath, it's got a little summary of my education transcript. And I can go immediately to the one I'm working on, team collaboration or distinguished Toastmaster, and I can open the curriculum directly from here. Now I've already opened up my curriculum, so let me go there. Yes, I had already. And it's been too long, so I will come back to that and start again. So I'm going to go through from the beginning. So accessing the path through the blue tile. And it takes you into your education transcript. And you'll get used to the different terminologies now, but this is your workspace. And it's here where you'll find the paths that you have enrolled in. Mine is team collaboration, and I can go to my open curriculum here. But let's say I'm at the beginning after choosing my path and I want to see everything that is contained within it. To do that, I would click on team collaboration here on the left, and this takes you into a page which shows all of the projects. A little small for you to read. I might enlarge it a little bit here. so you can see it. And from level 1 right through to level 5. And all of the projects can be launched from here. The word launch simply means to open your online class. So in this particular path, I have finished several levels. As you can see, the status is showing as completed. And where, say for an example, I haven't done all the electives, where those have not been done, it says not activated. And keep in mind that you're only needing to do 4 electives throughout a path. Some people I've seen in the past have mistakenly thought they had to do them all. Well, not in order to complete a path, you do not. Out of interest, you could, and I'm certainly exploring that now. So in level 3, you do 2 electives. And if I wanted to go immediately to one of those now and open up, I could by launching it. So I'm going to go to the one called Creating Effective Visual Aids, and I want to launch it from here. This will open a brand new tab. So do tell me if you now see the new tab coming into view. It'll be showing a white screen at the moment as it's loading up, and then you'll see the little timing device in the middle.
Carole, I just want to let you know that we are now 46 minutes into the workshop.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's taking its time today. I might close a few things here. So one of the things you do need to have is patience, especially if you're presenting to an international audience. All right, so we're now into the online class, but I've come in at a page that is not the beginning. So let me just bring it down a little bit and go to the first page that you should see. Because I had done this one, it is showing the other end of it. So the online classes all have the same navigation, left and right arrows to move through, and a jump to box, which allows you to move from one page to another so that, you know, you're coming back in at another time, you can select one. So I want to go to before using visual aids. I need to learn a little bit more about those. Rehearse your speech with the visual aids, which is exactly what I'm doing with you today. But I can move through page at a time. And in some case, there'll be words on the screen or graphics to look at. In others, there will be videos that you can view. If you need directions for the navigation, you can get them at the bottom. The one thing that I do advise you to do when you first get your online class is go to the second last screen called your evaluation. Here you'll pick up your evaluation resource and your project. They're PDF documents, and when you click on that one, it will give you the PDF that you can then download and then store on your computer and look at in an offline manner, so that you're not necessarily needing the internet. I really advise this so that you can work through it. People are more comfortable, I think, when it's something that they've got control over and that's not ticking down their time on the internet. You can then print it if you want to. It gives you everything that you need, as well as, just go to the bottom, a project checklist, which I think is a very valuable little tool in this project, just to find out, am I ready for my speech? Have I done A, B, C, and D? If I go back to this one and I choose the evaluation resource, and I'll very quickly show you the second page of it. which is what I was referring to before when Christian was asking about the value of the evaluations, because it's the criteria that you're judging people on when you listen to their speech. You're looking for clarity, vocal variety, comfort, and so on. So all of those documents are available on that second last page. The last page is the one that you must complete, which is called Assess Your Skills After. And you'll see that I have finished this one, and I've given myself the top marks, and that triggers this project to be complete. And it's that last screen that will notify you that you've completed your project. Then you'd go back to your need to go back to my transcript, which I'll access from here. And it will then show me, when I open the curriculum, it will show me my progress tracking. And it's here where you'll see the amount of the path you finished. So I'm currently 73% through this one. And at each level, it will tell you how much you've done in the level. So I'm currently at level 5, but I've only completed 34% of that level. The final thing in every path now is this new section called path completion. Now this might have changed even whilst you were still working in level 1, Asa, because it's only been changed in September. And this is the project that Christian was referring to called Reflect on Your Path. So that gives you a broad brush stroke of how you work through and navigate in your project. So I'll come back to my slides and I will move to the next segment, which I think is important for me to finish up with tonight in the few minutes that I have left with you. We won't have time to cover all that I had intended to cover, but you'll have all of these slides later. The important thing to do is to make sure that when you have completed your level, that you let your Vice President of Education know. You can only really have your level completion verified if you've finished all the projects in the level. That's not to say that you have to do level 1 first. If you're an experienced Toastmaster, you can now jump into projects at level 3 if you want. Nothing to stop you. However, if you want your reward for finishing, you need to do them sequentially. But that means you simply go back and do them. And remember that there are over 25 electives and lots of those to entice you. So this is what I meant about being flexible now. You might begin in level 1 and then perhaps there's something that you see at level 4 that you need to do right now, a project, leap into that and then come back and finish at level 2. So there's lots more user choice. All right, I'm not going to show all those screens. I'm going to fast track through to another segment for you. One of the other very useful documents that I advise you to provide for your members is the Pathways Reference Guide, a printable document which gives you pages like this one. And at every level, it shows you what's involved, how many projects, how many speeches. So I'm just going to show you these few pages. So learning your style is the second level. And they're color coded so you know where you're up to. And at level 3, you're also required to complete 3 meeting roles, the Toastmaster, Topics Master, and Speech Evaluator. not all in the same meeting, but at some stage during level 3 in order to complete that one. But here are all those wonderful electives that I was talking about to choose from. And knowing what's there, I think, is the best selling point for you to put in place for your members. Here's more at level 4. Managing online meetings. That one I think we should all do.
Carole, we cannot see your slides.
Oh, let me go to a new share. Sorry, here we go. So level 5, let me go back and show you those other electives. So there's the most of the electives are at level 3. You get to choose 2 there. Connecting with storytelling is my favourite one in that bracket. Managing online meetings is something I advise everybody to do. And in the last bracket, lessons learned or high performance leadership. So the electives really offer you a wide variety of things to tackle and challenge yourself with. All right, at this point, I think we're about at time, so I'm going to hand back to Christian.
Thank you, Toastmaster Carole. Thank you so much for sharing. I was also writing down, despite being a previous online pathways guide. I was also taking a lot of notes. So questions from the audience. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I've got one. If I got it right, we can be at different levels. I can be at level 2 and yet do a project at level 4. I don't need to complete one level first and then proceed to the other.
That's right. Now that's only changed in the last month. Okay. Because so many people across the world had asked for it. They didn't like having to do it sequentially. We still advise a brand new Toastmaster who has no experience to work through sequentially. However, you can jump ahead. As long as you then go back and complete your levels, you'll get your rewards. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. And the Basecamp Manager, he's usually the VP?
The VP is the main one. The other 2 are the secretary or the president, but usually it falls to the VPE. There's an interesting project happening at District 57 where they're putting in place as a new executive role for their clubs in the whole district as a pathways coordinator. So it might be something that we need to think of in the undistricted clubs, Christian. So a new way to bring in someone who's already forged ahead in pathways and give them a special title. Any other questions?
Yes, Carole, Roshan. I have one question on the skipping the levels. Are there another projects they are designed in such a way that to make the speaker acquire the knowledge and experience before they move on to the next level or next speech or next project? Say I complete level 1, then I move on to level 4, but I've missed level 2 and level 3. Does that level 2 and level 3 I'll miss something that will help me do the level 4? It's like the traditional one we had when we did the CC. You do body language, then you do vocal variety. You learn from the various speeches, the various projects that you do.
You're quite right, Roshan. And that's the argument that many people would put forward as to prescribing you to work sequentially through your levels. My argument is that for a reasonably experienced Toastmaster, they don't necessarily need to do that. They can choose an elective at level 4 if that fits in with their scheme of things. If you're a new Toastmaster, then follow the path in the sequence that it was written specifically for that same reason that you mentioned, because it's building your skills incrementally. But thank you for that question. It comes up many times.
Yeah, great. So For experienced senior members, they are there for, they have completed a few paths, then they can do it the way they want. But if someone new to Toastmasters, a new member, will advise him or her to do
Yes.
it sequentially. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. It
Thank you
makes
very much.
sense. And keep in mind that it's then the duty of the Basecamp manager to verify the completion of the levels before they get their awards. And if you don't get the awards, you don't get the DCP points for your club. So it all fits together neatly.
So, Carole, just to confirm on what you have shared, a Toastmaster can work at any level because now all the levels for all the paths are accessible from the time you get onto your path.
Yep.
And it's independent of the level completion. Or after, for example, I take the case of what Azra mentioned earlier. I'm on level 1 and I want to work on level 4 projects. Now I've completed the level 4 projects. I still need to complete level 1, 2, and 3 to get my level 4 approved in Basecamp, right?
Correct, yes.
That means I've worked on the project, but in Basecamp and in Leadership Central, it doesn't show as level 4 approved. I
No,
need to
that's
complete.
right. Because in Club Central, it will only activate the availability of your next award as you complete each level. You will only get the level completion when it's verified that you've completed all of the projects within that level. And you still need to have some checks and balances. So there's a really neat document that I didn't include tonight, but it's just suddenly come into my head. It's called the Level Completion Checklist. And it looks a little bit like the checklist that was at the back of the CC manual, if you're familiar with that one.
Oh, yes.
And this is a useful one for people who like to see the checks and balances along the way and maybe even sign it to verify that it's done.
Final question from me on this item. You mentioned on a number of roles that we need to complete to in turn complete our level 3 of a path. Before it was about completing a number of roles, more than 3. So right now, as from September of 2019, it's only 3 roles that we need to complete. That means
yes, it seemingly, and I don't know why, but that is what's built into your ability to have level 3 completion verified. Be a Toastmaster, be a Topics Master, and be an evaluator. The other roles in a club meeting are still important. So I'm not sure how we're meant to motivate and incentivize the completion of those, because people will say, well, I don't have to do those. They're not in my book. So it could be a little bit of a problem. So I'm not sure how to handle that. And I'm not sure of the reasons why those 3 only have been chosen.
all right. For the Basecamp manager who's approving a level 3, will the Basecamp manager get a notification of that Toastmaster has entered Toastmaster role completed on this date in their profile, Table Topics Master, or how does that happen?
The Basecamp manager can look into the completion of the level when they go in as a Basecamp manager. We didn't have time to see that tonight, but you remember when I showed you me going into my club and I chose my home club, the Basecamp manager will only see if I've gone into my home club that way, and they can see my progress, they can see my level completion, they can verify it, they can look at what my roles have been completed, and one other thing that's escaped me. But it's very important that each individual Toastmaster manages their own pacing and monitoring everything that they do. So that's why I say the e-portfolio doesn't really give them any advantage, because the Basecamp manager doesn't see inside that, but they could see something that they've sent to them via an email. So a PDF of the evaluation, for example, that's been signed. So we've come a long way tonight,
Yes,
and I've only covered half of what I intended to. I think I need to come back.
You're more than welcome to come back. We can confirm on the next date. But before we end, does anyone have any questions for Carole?
I have a last question. Sorry. With respect to the roles you were saying, we have on our profile where we can input the dates we did account a grammarian, but the issue is we can only input only one date. We can't put a history of the dates.
That's true. And what I had this question before, and what you do is you just update it each time you've done it on another date, and it only records the last date on which you did that role. I think that's the least functioning element of Basecamp at the moment. I think they've got to do something else for that, because it's confusing, isn't it? Because you think, well, I've got to do that. Why can't I put in the extra dates? That doesn't allow you to. So it's just the last date that's important.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening and questioning today. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Coach Carole. Final question from me is, what would be your recommendation to anyone who is on their Pathways journey in Toastmasters? What would be your one-liner, your sentence, your recommendation?
Wow, I like that. I believe that you should network widely with those who already completed your path. One of the things that you can do as an executive officer is look up the statistics for your district to see who's doing what path. So my advice is find someone else who's done the path that you're doing and ask them a question or follow them.
Thank you so much, Coach Carole. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I cannot thank you enough, because on a personal note, I know you since the first time I joined the online club community. And I have to say, you're one of those Toastmasters who always has their bar of service, quality, and excellence just up high there. And at times, very often, it's difficult to follow in your footsteps, but I'm trying. So thank you for putting time aside to be with us, because I know for sure it's so late at your place right now. You should be in bed. And I do look forward to having you again, because I know a lot of people who missed, especially the Basecamp managers who missed this session. I'm going to share the recording and a few updates with them locally for the Mauritian Toastmasters. I think they're going to want another session, but let's wait and see what comes up. But once again,
Sure.
Thank you for your time and patience and service. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it immensely, and I will send you a copy of the slides tomorrow after I've had a sleep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you all.
right.
Thank you, Carole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you, Asa, and thank you, Christian.
Thank
Good
you.
night
So,
and enjoy your journey.
thank you.
Thank
So a couple
you.
of announcements before we end the session. Number one, there's a YouTube channel coming up over the next couple of weeks, because we always have questions on Basecamp, on Pathways, and Toastmasters. So what is going to happen is, this is different compared to other YouTube channels. It's going to be a collaboration of people across different clubs, different time zones, different countries, where everyone who wants to add value to the Toastmasters community and the Toastmasters organization, they can just come and share a video, share the feedback, even practice their online speech addresses. So watch out for it. It's going to pop up over the next couple of days, and you can get your Toastmasters Pathways questions answered there. Definitely this video is going to be highlighted in that YouTube channel, so watch out for that. Announcement number two is the next workshop in this mini series is going to happen tentatively on the 10th of November, and the title is going to be Impact Leadership. The workshop facilitator is going to be I want to do a drum roll here. I cannot do that because it's going to go haywire. It's going to be Lorraine Taylor. Carole knows who that person is. So watch out for the PR on the workshop. I say tentatively because Lorraine currently is in a time zone which is quite difficult to join at the hours I've scheduled this mini-series. But if it doesn't happen on the 10th, it's going to happen at the start of December, but do watch out for the updates. On this note, I wish everyone a very good afternoon, a very good evening, and a good night wherever you are. And thank you for being here, and look out for the next mini-series.
Well done, Christian. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Take care.
Bye-bye.